Our first finalist from Vancouver, Washington, Mark Frank. From Las Vegas, Nevada, Paul Renteria. Bowling from Mopark, California, Robert Smith. And from Quakertown, Pennsylvania, Mike Taylor. From the fabulous Showboat Hotel, Casino, and Bowling Center in Las Vegas, welcome to the 11th Annual High Roller Bowling Tournament. Hello, I'm Steve Grad. Welcome to our telecast. We're thrilled you're with us for this one-of-a-kind sports event, where bowlers from all 50 states and 5 foreign countries are competing for over $2 million in prize money. That's right, $2 million in prize money. And what do these players all have in common? They're all amateurs. And one of them will have taken home $200,000 by the end of this telecast. That's life-changing money. Right now, it's my pleasure to bring in the man who's going to be doing the expert commentary on our broadcast, Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats, Earl Anthony. Earl, welcome.
Thanks, Steve. It's a pleasure to be back in Las Vegas.
Okay. Well, Earl, let me ask you, what advice would you have for amateurs who've, number one, never bowled on television, and number two, have never bowled for this kind of prize money?
Steve, I've never bowled for this kind of prize money. I wouldn't know what it was like, and I'm sure I'd be very nervous. As far as bowling on television, each man they know how to handle that pressure themselves. They know what they think of. They know what goes on in their mind. So I don't think you can give a person advice in that situation. They have to go out there and experience and handle it in the best way they can.
What about the advice of, bowling when the lights are reflecting off the lanes and how the depth perception on the pins may be affected?
Well, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to affect the way they play the game. One of them is going to be what you mentioned, the lights, the reflection off the lanes. The pin spotting is going to look like they're off spots because of the shadow. Another thing that's going to happen is it's very humid and hot here today, and they're going to be bowling under a temperature of maybe 90 degrees, so the perspiration is going to affect their release. A lot of things are going to change from what they normally bowl. It's going to be like bowling on a stage. It's very quiet when they're making the shot, so they're going to be out here all by themselves. How they handle that pressure will decide who wins that $200,000.
Oh, Earl, you're talking about $200,000. Any thoughts of maybe coming out of retirement to go after this pot?
Steve, I couldn't beat these guys. I watched them bowl the last 2 days. They're fantastic. They've handled the pressure extremely well, and I'm pleased to be part of this. Really am.
And we'll be back to start today's championship action at the High Roller from the Showboat right after this.
Earl, they've been here all week. They get to this point. That has to take all the butterflies out when you start like that.
Getting through the first 2 or 3 shots, Steve, are the important ones. Once you get past that point, then you can really get into the match. But right now, for this young man, I'm sure for Robert Smith, he probably can't even feel his feet on the approach right now. He's floating just a little bit above it.
Robert Smith, who just turned 18. He's on Team USA. So he's had some national experience, and he'll have some international experience coming up at the World Junior Competition in Venezuela.
Opportunities now for the young children, I shouldn't say young children, but the young people through college scholarships and things of that nature in bowling are fantastic, and they get this kind of experience in match play now that when they come, if they do decide to be a professional bowler, for example, Steve, they come on the Pro Tour with a tremendous background starting from their early teens, and I think it's wonderful that they get that opportunity. When we were first starting out on the Pro Tour, the only match play we'd get is if we wanted to challenge somebody for $5 a game somewhere or something of that nature.
See if he gets the sleeper, the 3-9. He got it.
A lot of money all through this for these 4 players. We're talking about that $200,000 first prize, but these bowlers are competing. The loser of this match still has the opportunity to win $50,000 in third place, and obviously the person in fourth, $25,000. So there's a lot of money available, but $200,000 is what you're looking at, and that's a lot of money. I don't care who you are, how much money you've got. $200,000 is a lot of money.
Mike Taylor too light, so he can't double up.
Easy spare. Yeah, easy spare for him though, Steve, and he won't have any problem covering this. He's made his spares extremely well. All 4 of these players have been good spare shooters, and in this kind of competition, probably more important than the strikes is the ability to cover your spares. It keeps you in the match and keeps pressure on your opponent to make good shots and try to get strikes to beat you.
Whoa. One less coat of paint, and he'd have chopped that one.
That's right. Very casual coming off the approach there. Nothing to it.
We are even as we begin frame number 3, with Mike Taylor going on lane 59. This is a guy who's resilient. One of the hottest bowlers in this tournament was Canadian Bill Rowe. And Bill Rowe, in the final 8, had him down by 20 pins. And again, he's too high. But Mike Taylor battled back, put a string together, and came from behind to beat him 233 to 214.
I was watching that match, and it came down to the 10th frame. Mike struck out from the 5th frame to get 233, I believe his final score was. His opponent needed a strike to beat him, left a solid 8 pin. He couldn't throw it any better, and there's a bad break early for him.
Well, an open frame, and now he's down by 13 pins.
And it's what usually happens in this kind of competition. Your opponent, when you make a mistake, jumps on you. He gets that next 2 strikes and just emphasizes the mistake you made and takes a commanding lead. So we'll see what this young man can do with this early opportunity in the match.
On a spare. Oh, like a solid 10 just there. That won't come down.
Tremendous rotation he gets on the ball. This young man has great wrist action. He gets around to the side of the ball with his thumb out of the ball, his finger still in it. That's what creates the power you just saw when that pin come flying across the pin deck and almost got the 10 pin. That's the rotation he puts on the bowling ball. He can really make it hit on the back end, and that's the kind of power you need on today's lane conditions to score well.
Whoa. And he just let his lead evaporate.
And that's the pressure of bowling for this kind of money. And again, if they can get through the first 2 or 3 frames, usually that pressure will lighten up a little bit. And sometimes it's good to make a mistake early. It makes the butterflies go away. You start getting mad at yourself and you concentrate better and you make better shots. Let's see if you can do that.
Robert Smith up by 1 pin now as he begins his 4th frame. Light. See how he's talking himself down.
Yeah, and what he's saying there, Steve, he's saying slow down, slow down. And he doesn't mean the ball now. What he's means when he says slow down, he's talking about his feet. You watch him, you get up, watch when he slides at the foul line. See how he's a little bit sideways there? He's sideways because he was ahead of the ball and he had to pull the ball through to catch up, and that made him not have good leverage and good rotation. Didn't get back to the bottom.
They get a 1-4-8 combination for a spare. And we'll return with this first match between Mike Taylor and Robert Smith, with Mike Taylor trailing by a pin going into the 4th frame after this. Welcome back to the Showboat. We're in the semifinals of the High Roller Tournament. Mike Taylor and Robert Smith competing. And Robert Smith begins his 7th frame. Even. He's working on a strike. He left open frames in the 3rd and 5th. And there's Mike Taylor, who had his open frames in the 3rd and the 6th. He doesn't seem to have the groove that he wants.
No, he's actually starting to try to fit the ball a little bit now, Steve. He's not freewheeling as he's done all week. All week long, he's trusted the ball. He's given it a lot of room and had that tremendous rotation. He could get it back from almost anywhere on the lane. Now he seems like he's trying to aim the ball. When you do that, you very seldom carry well, even if you hit the pocket. When you're aiming the ball, you don't have good rotation. The ball doesn't hit as well.
Well, he does cover. This is a kid who played high school basketball at Royal High School in Simi Valley up through the 11th grade, and then he realized, wait a minute, you know, I don't want to jeopardize my bowling career here.
He has a lot of talent. He has a great future if he's physically can hang in there.
Oh, kicked out that 10 nicely.
It's the biggest opportunity of the match for Mike Taylor. He's on a strike here in the 7th frame, bowling in the 8th. Here's a replay of that last shot. You can see his reaction. There's Bob Smith. He's pumped.
The enthusiasm of youth, huh?
Right. And Taylor here again can really put the pressure on 18-year-old Bob Smith with a strike here. Earl,
I noticed the thumb pop out of here when he released the ball. And how much does the humidity in this place have to do with that?
Well, that I'm sure is part of it, but again, he likes to use a tight thumb hole, and some of the players, when they use the tight thumb hole, if they don't completely relax their thumb at the point of release, they won't get out of it at all. So maybe part of it is the perspiration you're talking about, Steve, but I think his, as you see, see how he has to push his thumb to get it in the hole, whereas most players just slide the thumb in and it comes out very easily. He has to have a very relaxed grip at the bottom, or he can't get out of the ball cleanly.
He's up by 10. Now he has a turkey. And he goes up by 20. And times are running out as Robert Smith will now try his 9th frame. Right now, if Taylor strikes out, he can finish at 213. Smith at 203. So it's all in Taylor's hands. Too high. Hit the head pin and almost got the biggest steal of the game.
And that was the biggest shot of the week for Bob Smith right there. He had to have that strike to stay in the match. Now he has to rely on Mike Taylor and make some mistakes, and the way Taylor's throwing the ball right now, I don't think that's going to happen. There's another look at that last shot, Steve, and you can see his reaction. When he released the ball, he knew it wasn't going to be there, and it was a bad shot.
Going for the 3.
And he missed it. And this game is over, folks.
Anyway, Robert Smith finishes with a 160. Back to the High Roller, the 11th annual High Roller here from the Showboat. And we're ready for our other semifinal match between Mark Frank of Vancouver, Washington, and Paul Renteria, formerly of Tucson and now recently of Las Vegas. And Renteria doesn't bother looking at his opponent, as you see, as Mark Frank gets ready. Mark has no lack of practice time, being a proprietor of 3 lanes in the Portland, Oregon area.
I tell you, usually you don't get any practice when you're running the bowling center. You just don't have time, and you want to get out of there after putting in 8 or 10 hours a day in the bowling center. You just want to get out of there, Steve. So you might get less practice than the other guys.
Well, he hit that one right on the nose, unfortunately for him.
All throughout his matches this week, he's had a problem of getting out of the gate, and every one of them has come to the 10th frame. And here's a look at a guy that is a very aggressive player. We watch him on the lanes, folks. When he gets out there, he looks like a prize fighter coming out there to fight. He's ready to go. He reminds me a lot of Mark Roth. He was that way.
So the 3-6 still standing for Mark Frank.
Every spare is tough, even a one-pinner in this kind of competition. For this much money, there's a lot of pressure.
You just said it.
And spares are so important. They keep you in the match. They make your opponent double or at least get a few strikes in a row to beat you. If you can just fill frames, it's so important just to fill those frames.
Paul Renteria will start his first frame by 11.
He's the only one of the top 4 that has any television experience at all. He's had some in the past, and that could be a big factor in these matches. Look at his eyes.
Boy, it sure tripped out that 7 nicely.
He just destroyed that rack, Steve. That's power. And here's a guy that's bowling. Now, here's a look at that. Now, watch the release. Watch the wrist. You can see the wrap he has around it. Now, let's see how strong he was through that ball. His wrist rotated around the ball. He's bowling with a broken hand. He's got a broken bone in the back of his hand. There's tremendous swelling in his hand. The pain has to be unbelievable. But for $200,000, he's going to make it through, I'll bet you. He doesn't care about the pain. He's ready to go.
And this is the 3rd time he's broken that bone. It just doesn't reheal. It's from all the bowling. He said it wasn't very strong to begin with.
It's a stress fracture. It just keeps coming back, and he puts such pressure on it. I don't know how he can do it. Bob Benoit on the PBA Tour is another player that's had that problem, bowling with a broken bone in his wrist. And to me, it's amazing they can do that. I'm a coward. I don't like pain. There's a good look at now. Look how he cups the ball. His wrist strength is tremendous, but look at the pressure that has to put on his hand.
Coming back, very solid. Opens with a double.
Well, something that's kind of interesting, Steve, is that every bowling ball used in this tournament has to be checked in by the tournament officials. Bill Supper's, his staff weighed every ball, checked it to make sure it's legal, it fits ABC specifications, and we're talking about 4,573 balls that were actually weighed and checked this week by that staff. Now that's 16 pounds of ball. That's a lot of weight.
And there's Bill, and It's second nature to him. Fran Wolf to his right from the LPBT. Now one of the marketing directors here at the show. And light, he avoided a washout there, but...
And he's confused. Even in his practice balls before the match, he had trouble with the right-hand lane here at Showboat. We're bowling on lanes 59 and 60. Lane 60 was a problem for him even in practice, so he's a little confused. And again, he already missed one easy spare. This one's even tougher. He's going to try to get the ball to cross the head pin, have the ball go between the 1 and the 2 pin, and take out, and then the pin action will take out the 4.
And there's Jack Cook and his wife Diane. Jack, the general manager of the Showboat Bowling Center. And he covers. Perfect. Mark Frank does get the spare in his second frame. Paul Renteria. You wouldn't know if you didn't know what sport we were at. You wouldn't know what he was in, what competition. He could be in a variety of sports, including boxing, the way he is intense.
He is, his eyes, just to look at his eyes. If I were bowling him a match, I wouldn't look at him. And I'd watch him bowl, but I would not look him in the eye. He would scare me.
Really?
He's intimidating. He's an intimidator. And not intentionally, it's just his way of playing the game.
Right in the pocket. Oh, and a solid 10 won't go down. And Renteria just doesn't bat an eyelash when he sees his opponent have trouble. He worries about himself.
No, he's so much into his own game that he just wants to throw 12 strikes and says, if you can shoot 300, you can tie me. That's what he's thinking.
There goes that 7, but boy, that really hurt. And now Renteria will come out for his third frame, trying for a turkey up by 22 pins. Yeah, what's he thinking about during that?
I think he's just concentrating on his own game. He's thinking his opponent can do what he can do. There's no defense in this game. This is strictly a game of offense. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to get into his own game and concentrate on what he's trying to do with the bowling.
That's going to bring the other man back into this.
And it's amazing. Like I mentioned earlier, this has happened all week for Mark Frank. Every time he gets down, his opponent comes back to him and waits for him. And then in the 10th frame, for some unknown reason, Mark Frank has won every match, it seems, in the 10th frame. To get to this point, just to get to the top 4, his opponent opened in the 10th frame and let him win the match, 172 to 170.
All going for the count. And when you're up, that's a wise decision.
It is, especially on 2 strikes, because the count is so important at this point.
So now he's up by 7 after 3 frames. As you mentioned, his opponents had the lowest average against him.
Just to let his ball is actually rolling out a little bit when he gets to the pocket area, and that is a tremendous carrying ball. If you can get it in the pocket just a little bit lighter than that, it'll carry everything. It'll carry the wall shots, it'll trip the 10. Unfortunately, that was just a little bit high, but the rollout shot is what some of the players on the tour have made a lot of money with. It's just unbelievable how well it will strike. You'll see a rollout, what it does, it goes down, it hooks, and then kind of straightens out as it gets to the pin area.
4 is covered. And so Paul Renteria still up by 7 here at the Showboat in our other semifinal match, and we'll be right back for more action. Stay with us. Yes, I'm Steve Grant with Earl Anthony. We're in our second semifinal match as Paul Renteria has a 22-pin lead working on a strike in the 7th frame. But this being what it is, a one-game elimination for the $200,000 top prize. Nothing is in granite until you mathematically eliminate someone. One disaster in open frame and your opponent, no matter how out of it, can still come back.
One-game match. It goes up and down so much. Your emotions go up and down right along with your fortunes in the match. And again, this is the experienced player right here. You mentioned that Mark Frank's only been bowling for 5 years. This guy's been bowling all his life. He knows how to play this game very well. Tough competitor.
Shooting right back in there. What action, what power.
And what a great shot. Again, the ball rolled out. It's set up for him in the pocket area, and that carry is tremendous. I've mentioned it before, but it just reminds me so much of watching the top professionals in action. That's exactly what made Amleto Monticelli Bowler of the Year, the rollout shot.
On a double now, he has made this man, Mark Frank, down by 32.
Looks like a great shot.
High, but he still had the power.
And again, it looks like the ball's going to go high, Steve. It looks like if it continues to hook, it's going to be maybe a 4-6 or something of that nature, but it straightens out on the back. That rollout, when it sets up like that, the carry potential is amazing.
I guess you're hitting it on the penultimate angle when you do that.
When the ball's going straight back, but coming at that extreme angle to get to that point, it just carries all 10 pins. Mark Frank, in dire straits, needs everything now. No chance with that shot.
Now he's down by 42, and it's continuing to be a bigger deficit. The 1-2 again on the 60. Now he's down by 44.
What a facility this is. This is a 106-lane facility. They're bowling on the side of the house. It has 70 lanes in a row. And this week, in 8 days, there were 26,000 games bowled in this tournament. 26,000 games. Now, can you imagine? That's just unbelievable. And we're down to the final 4 guys, bowling for all the money.
And the Showboat facility's no worse to wear. I do know the slot machines are a little heavier.
You don't gamble, do you, Steve?
No, I'll tell you what, the only time I ever gamble is when somebody back home says, here, I'm giving you $10, put it on the table. If I win, I'll use their $10.
There you go. Well, we're down to the nitty-gritty, folks. 9th and 10th frame. Mark Frank, right now, I'm sure is thinking, I can still make $50,000 if I can win that consolation match.
If he strikes out, he gets a 1. He's lucky he didn't leave the 7-10.
Yeah, in his mind, he's thinking, why didn't it strike? Saying that, you know, it was a good ball. He threw that very well, and it was really his last gasp chance to have any hope of winning this particular match, and that would have needed for Paul Renteria to open in the last 2 frames, even at that. And you hear the ball, you hear that thump going down the lane. That's what he's doing, is he's rolling it basically over the thumb hole by straightening it out, relaxing his wrist, makes the ball go straight so it's easier to cover your spares. Now, you people at home that might be watching this, you got to remember, you don't have to throw a great hard hook to make a spare. All you got to do is hit it.
Everything doesn't have to be pretty.
It doesn't have to be pretty. Just get the ball where that pin is, and it'll fall down.
Paul Renteria can lock him right out. 1 mark right here. Solid 10 for him.
This match is over.
Yeah,
really.
It's over.
He doesn't even need a mark in the last 2 frames.
As long as he got that 9, as long as he didn't put it in the gutter.
I'll tell you what, he will concentrate, though. He'll make this spare, if at all possible, give it his best shot. And in the 10th frame on the other lane, he'll try to make 2 good shots there also, because, again, he's experienced. He's been here before. He's been on television before in the past. And what he's going to try to do here is make sure he keeps his concentration level high and he stays lined up on the pair. He doesn't want to get out there and make bad shots and not be comfortable when he comes back for that championship match.
Got 5 strikes in this match here in the 10th frame. Foundation spare in the 9th, but it's all academic. He's already advanced to the championship, and he'll get at least $100,000.
Boy, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And remember, these are amateur bowlers. That's the amazing part. Uh-oh. Now that right there, believe it or not, he got lazy. Now, when he comes back for the championship match, he'll be thinking about that. And that could affect his first or second shot on that lane. Was it me or was it the lane? That's what goes through your mind in that situation. So when he comes back for his championship match, even though it doesn't matter in this match, it'll be on his mind.
That is a strange leave, huh?
Yeah, he'll just take the 2, the match is over, and he's the winner. Very happy young man.
A 197 for Paul Renteria. You don't have to break 200 to win. Just beat your opponent, and that takes care of it.
At its best, over $2 million in cash prizes.
High Roller is one of the best tournaments really in the whole country and the world as far as I'm concerned.
These guys are pressure bowlers.
You have to be able to handle it and not let them see you sweat.
For more information about the High Roller Tournament taking place July 3rd through 7th at the Showboat Hotel in Las Vegas, call 1-800-257-6179. 1-800-257-6179.
Girls, we had a couple of interesting semifinal matches. Mike Taylor over teenager Robert Smith, 213 to 160. And then Paul Renteria, 197 to 167 over Mark Frank. Your assessment of those two semifinals?
Well, I think it's very simple, Steve. The experience tells. And I think both the players that won those two matches are very experienced match play bowlers. And it should be an interesting match in the championship.
$200,000 riding on one game. You think they're nervous?
Well, I would be. My hands are sweating, and I'm just watching.
Yeah, they're human beings. That's going to happen. You know, there have been so many bowling changes as bowling centers go into the 21st century. Many of them are starting to get into the 21st century here in the 1990s. And the man who can tell us about these updatings of the bowling centers is none other than THRU of Quality Bowling. And Darryl, when people come into their center, anywhere in the country or the world, they notice these changes, the technical changes, for instance.
That is absolutely true. We're seeing here in the last several years a real change in the bowling industry. You look at the showboat lanes here, the beautiful masking units, the sidewall decor. What's happening now is they are color coordinating. They're designing to the theme of the bowling center, to the country that they're in, to the land that they sit in. Some very wonderful things are happening in the bowling industry today. And this is all for the comfort and the joy of the bowler.
Yeah, make it user-friendly. I know Horizon Design has done a marvelous job here. You'd think it was they were doing a palatial living room.
That is exactly right. They were given a theme in this bowling center and picked it upon themselves to go out and design that, pick up the showboat theme, and it almost looks like bowling is a marriage with what they've done here with the man and woman on the action set scenes there. It is. It's very pleasant to the eye, and it matches the entire theme of the bowling center here.
We've come a long way from the days of a pin setter. 30 years ago was the most recent with the automatic pin setting. And now they don't even dress the lanes with human beings. You've got the lane walker.
That's exactly right. We've seen that come a long way. We used to oil the lanes with what was known as kind of a fly sprayer and then run a mop down the lanes for even distribution. Today that's done with microprocessors on a machine. In fact, the new DBA lane walker goes down the lane, conditions it at whatever condition you want, comes back to the foul line, and moves from that foul line to the next lane fully automatically. You can put it in this 70-lane bowling center here at the Showboat, turn it on lane 1, and it will turn itself off automatically at lane 70.
Well, THRU, thank you very much for that update. I guess the only human element left, especially with the automatic scoring, is the bowler themselves.
That's right. And we don't want to take that away from the bowler. That's the magnificent part of this game. It's a one-man challenge, each man for himself.
Okay, THRU from Quality Bowling, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of something very aesthetic and elementary, is a beautiful painting, the only bowling painting commissioned for sports artist Leroy Neiman. It's called The $1 Million Strike, and none other than my partner right here, Earl Anthony, the first professional to earn $1 million. Now, it wasn't on that one strike.
Unfortunately, it wasn't. In fact, I never threw a ball for what these guys are playing for, but Leroy did a wonderful job with that. That painting is hanging in the Hall of Fame in St. Louis, and I'm very proud to be part of that.
Well, it took you 11 years, I think, at that point, but I see some other terrific Hall of Famers with you, including Andy Varapapa.
Don Carter's in that photo. Frank Esposito, he's a Hall of Famer. Of course, Chris Schenkel, Nelson Burton Jr. are in that painting, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful job by Leroy.
This is it. This is the match for $200,000. The runner-up gets $100,000. Paul Renteria on the right and Mike Taylor on the left. The two finalists out of 1,300 original players, men and women from all 50 states and 5 foreign countries, battling in the final match.
You know, the odds on winning 10 consecutive matches to get to this point must be astronomical. Someone here in Las Vegas, I'm sure, could quote those odds for us.
There's Mike Taylor just waiting his turn. Again, Paul Renteria with a broken bone behind his right index finger, his bowling hand. Right. 1-2-10.
This is a tough spare. Spares on the left side of the lane this week have been difficult because the ball tends to hook very sharply as soon as it crosses the center of the lane. And he wants this ball to cross center line. He might play it down the left side to eliminate some of that. And he wants the ball to hit right between those two pins and have the 2-pin go into the 10.
Yeah, he did a good textbook line, but he leaves it open, and Mike Taylor ready to go.
Mike Taylor, his last 2 wins, he strung a big string of strikes at the end of each match to win them. I don't think he wants to get too careless with Paul Renteria because he can string strikes also.
Nice smooth delivery into the pocket, and there's the 9, a solid.
An unbelievable bad break, but it's early in the match, so it doesn't hurt nearly as much if it were the 8th, 9th, or 10th frame. An easy spare for him, and he'll still have the lead when he covers this spare.
And he does. This is his 3rd year in the high roller. He's already taken home $21,000. And I might remind the folks here in the 2nd frame that in the $2 million payout over 7 days of bowling, they have a VIP tournament with a daily top prize of $10,000. They have a sweeper every night. They had a $25,000 top prize the other day. So you can really earn money here at the high roller. Very high.
And he's starting basically the way he started his last 2 matches. He seems to be a little bit lost on the lanes, and once he gets lined up around the 5th or 6th frame, we'll see if he can do what he did before, and that's throw a string of strikes. But I still feel that the experience factor belongs to he covers the spare the hard way.
The hard way from the top.
I feel the experience factor that the favorite would be Paul Renteria. Here's another look at that, and he's really actually trying to get this ball between the 3 and the 6 pin, and it hooks a little bit early for him. Remember, the center of the lane tends to hook a little more, and he was fortunate not to pick the 3 pin off the 6-10.
Confidence is such a factor in bowling, and this man has a confident look on his face. In fact, all week he has not changed his expression.
Steady his head is to the foul line. That's very important, making good shots. Keeping a steady head, and that was a great release there.
So he marks in the 2nd frame with a strike and still trails by 8 pins. Paul has a daughter he's very proud of. Jason Renteria. She's 8 years old.
I wonder if she bowls. What do you think?
I'll bet you she does. What'll he do with the $200,000? He says he'll use that money to help his family, and there's no more noble cause than that. There's a man who knows that what he's shooting is going in there, and that's Melinda Wilder, his girlfriend and his inspiration throughout this week.
The pressure for these 2 players is enormous at this point, and as much as they feel it, they can do something about it. They're out there competing, whereas their family and friends in the back are sitting there. They can't really do anything to help but cheer them on. But you really feel it more watching than you do when you're pulling for someone than you do actually.
A Brooklyn strike for Mike Taylor. And he still holds a 2-pin lead after 3. No, he's down by 2 after 3 frames.
Here's a look at his opponent on that last strike. Remember, it was a crossover Brooklyn. He doesn't want to watch him throw it, but he looked up to see what happened. When the crowd cheered, he wondered what was going on.
He hits the pocket and doesn't get the strike.
Actually, 2 good breaks in a row. The crossover to get the strike, a chance to get the double to get back into the lead in the match, and he was lucky he didn't get the 4-9 there.
Oh, yeah.
Very lucky, and even though it was a good shot. Can't get careless on your spares. Spares are more important than strikes at this point.
And he covers it beautifully in the 4th frame. So we have gone through 4 frames on Mike Taylor. Paul Renteria getting ready for his 4th, and we'll be right back for the championship match of the high roller after this. With Earl Anthony, I'm Steve Grant. Welcome back to our coverage of the high roller tournament, the 11th annual event. Paul Renteria getting set to bowl. In frame number 4, he has a 2-pin lead. Mike Taylor sitting down. Renteria is working on a double. The winner takes home $200,000.
And everybody that's watching this tournament could be here doing this. This is open to any amateur bowler. Just come out to Las Vegas, enter the tournament, chance to win $200,000 in 1 week.
It's on a track. Melinda knows it.
And I'll tell you what, Paul is really pumped right now. You can see the look in his eyes, the expression on his face, and he is as aggressive a player as you'll ever see.
Four-bagger.
There's a good break right there. There again is that ball that rolled out for him in the preliminary match. The ball set up in the pocket. It did it there. It didn't cut through. Mike Taylor's ball tends to cut through the pins. He's throwing a little more speed on the ball, and when it cuts through, the chances of leaving him 4-9, for example, in the pocket are there. His ball trips the 4 because it straightens out on the back, flattens out on the back end, trips the 4-pin for him.
He's now down by 22, working on a spare in the 5th. Throw inside, won't get the 10. So he now drops to 23 with his 2nd shot in the 5th frame. Here it comes.
And cross lane, he switches balls. Now he's using a very shiny surface bowling ball for his spares. And you'll see most high amateur bowlers, or even if you want to improve your game, that's the way to go. Switch, use 2 bowling balls, 1 for spares, 1 for strikes. Makes those spares a lot easier when the lanes are hooking.
And Mike Taylor begins frame number 6. On a pair of, he's had 4 spares and a strike. The strike came in frame number 3. He had an 11-pin lead to start after Renteria left the first frame open. Now he's down by 23. There's a pocket shot.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I were Paul Renteria, even though I've got 4 strikes in a row, I'd be thinking, this is where this guy starts every match with a string of strikes. And I can't let up. I've got to keep the pressure on him. The last 2 matches that Mike has bowled, in this situation, the 5th or the 6th frame, he's gone all the way through the 10th frame. So he can't afford to let up.
Paul Renteria for the 4-bagger as he begins his 6th frame, leading this man, Mike Taylor, by 23 pins. What a way to move to Las Vegas. You moved to Las Vegas from Tucson. You entered this tournament, and you're in the finals for $200,000 right here in Las Vegas.
And no expenses because you live here.
That's right. There you go.
It's just hard for me to imagine anybody, I don't care how experienced, how good a player you are, the top professionals throwing the ball as well or better than Paul Renteria is throwing the ball right now for a difference of $100,000 in the match.
He wanted a reset, got permission. 7th frame, 5 consecutive strikes. Up by 33 pins. Of course, Mike Taylor just sweating profusely as he watches.
But he sure looks calm, doesn't he?
Yeah.
His eyes, he looks so calm.
Back it goes.
I tell you, with that broken bone in his hand, even those hand slaps afterwards, they have to hurt a lot, like a toothache.
As we get set for the final portion of this bowling championship match between Paul Renteria and Mike Taylor. Renteria up by 43, and we're back to the Showboat after this. The tension continues to mount as we begin Mike Taylor's 7th frame for the championship of the High Roller Tournament in Las Vegas at the Showboat. Taylor down by 43 pins to Paul Renteria. Renteria has 6 consecutive strikes. Taylor trying for a double.
To me, that ball came off his hand a little quick, Steve. It just, you could hear it hit the lane. It actually kind of bounced a couple of times when it left his hand. Remember, it's very warm, humid here, and there's a major mistake. That could cost him the match.
And that happened to him earlier, but he got the spare from the top instead of splitting the pins. This time it didn't hook enough.
And I think he remembered that shot. It was on the same lane. He tried to throw it a little harder, and all he did was just move it over a couple of boards, and it was enough to chop the spare. Maximum he can shoot at this point, Mike Taylor, is 212. He needs to strike out, get 212 to put any kind of pressure at all on Paul Renteria.
And he's light again, and he's got a sleeper back there.
And barring an earthquake or someone dying on the approach, Paul Renteria is going to win this tournament in $200,000.
Taylor with a 2-8 in there. He's down by 57 at this point. Came in from behind, missed again.
I think he's kind of given up right now, but still, consolation prize of $100,000. Pretty good week.
Yeah, especially if you're going to have a bad game.
Yeah.
Well, the pride of Quakertown, Pennsylvania will still come home $100,000 richer, not counting what he's made in the sweepers and the VIP events.
It's been a great week for all these players. Mike Taylor's had a wonderful week, and of course the man of the hour on lane 60 right now on 6 consecutive strikes.
Up by 68 pins. Here's a man who had a 299 today in an earlier round. High, and there goes his string, but it's going to come at a most appropriate time. Look at Melinda. She's anticipating the finish of this as we are in frame number 8.
I don't think it will sink in until maybe tomorrow for Paul, just what he's accomplished here. The amount of money, the prestige of winning an amateur title like this. I mean, the High Roller event is one of the major amateur tournaments around the world, and this is, of course, a wonderful place to host such an event here at the Showboat Hotel, Casino, and Bowling Center. It's just, it's one of the main stops on the PBA Tour. It has a great history behind this particular facility, and they do such, Jack Cook and his people do such a wonderful job hosting an event like this.
The bowlers have fun here, period.
Even if you don't bowl well, there's a lot of entertainment available. And if you'd like to gamble, of course, you can do that. Just about anything you want to do is available, whether it be sports, entertainment, the night show.
A powerful Brooklyn strike. He's smiling now. Brooklyn strike for Paul Renteria in the 9th frame. Up by 67.
He's going at a 238 pace, whereas Mike Taylor is going at a 171 pace with only 2 frames to play. It's pretty much academic at this point.
And Taylor again leaves the 2-8. I mean, I don't know how I'd feel. He's just bowling it out. I don't know how I'd feel if I knew that no matter what I did, $200,000 is waiting for me. He's just tacked it in now, Mike Taylor. But hey, for $100,000, let's get it over with, is what he's thinking. You know, if you wanted that, you couldn't get it.
You'd never carry that if you needed it, that's for sure. I know he is disappointed, but still, all in all, when he has time to reflect on this week, it's been a wonderful week for Mike Taylor and all his friends and family.
Well, he'll finish in the 160s. Interestingly, each person who's been defeated in the semifinals and now the championship will finish with a 160-something score. 167. Meanwhile, Paul Renteria just wants to finish it up here. With a 9 in the 10th frame, his friends know it, everybody knows it. Paul Renteria. He is the champion and gets a standing ovation. He's going to finish it up. He's got to finish. He'll wind up in the 230s. I want to thank Chet Henser, our outstanding scorekeeper, as always, here at the High Roller. What the heck? It's all done. Paul Renteria, 237 to 167 over Mike Taylor for the championship of the High Roller. And this young man, now of Las Vegas, is going to take home $200,000.
Paul, congratulations, $200,000.
Man, it's unbelievable.
Hey, welcome to Las Vegas. You just moved here a few weeks ago. Did you think you'd have a new start like this?
Never. Never. This is once in a million. I mean, I got lucky and got a backer a week and a half ago. And and it was over the phone. So I hope he enjoys it, because I'm one real happy person.
Okay, real quickly, Melinda, what do you think about your man here getting $200,000?
I'm really proud.
And you weren't nervous once?
Yeah, very nervous.
All right, Paul Renteria will receive his check and his trophy for $200,000 right after this. Has the life-changing victory of $200,000 here at the 11th Annual High Roller. And for the presentation of the High Roller Trophy, here is Norm Edelman of the High Roller.
Thank you, Steve. It's a tremendous show. You started at $299 earlier today. You really capped it off with a tremendous show. We're proud of you.
Thank you very much. Norm, I'd like to thank you and your son, Brad, for putting this tournament on. And it was great all week. And all I can say is, whoever else wins this tournament, you guys will know how this feels.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, there's something else they'll know how it feels, is a check for $200,000, and Jack Cook, the general manager here at the Showboat Bowling Center, is about to make that presentation. Jack?
Paul, on behalf of the Showboat and the High Roller, here's your check for $200,000. You bowled great all week, buddy.
Thanks,
Congratulations.
Jack. Thank you. I'd like to thank Showboat for putting this on, and ESPN for airing it on the air, and I'd like to thank the fans here. I've known them for a long time. I just moved here, and thank you all very much. I'm glad to be here.
All right, Paul Renteria, what a way to start his life in his new home of Las Vegas, Nevada, the winner of the High Roller. Well, Earl Anthony, this was an exciting start for this man, and even with that broken bone in his right bowling hand, it didn't affect him.
And that's what amazes me, is how well he performed under this kind of pressure, with that kind of money, with a broken bone in his hand. It just amazes me that he could do that.
Well, you yourself said you've never, as a professional, even bowled for this kind of money.
No, and I don't ever expect to either. I'm very proud. Really, Paul performed admirably all week long. He was really one of the top 10 players all week. He was a class of the field. He deserves to win.
For Earl Anthony, I'm Steve Grad. Thanks for watching, and so long from the Showboat in Las Vegas.